There was a dog dying in my car. Does it ever get easy? No. The different way that I cry now is I voice out on social media. I do have people from like Canada, some girl from Africa just saying, oh my God, thank you for what you do. It's because our government has really failed to do what they were paid to do, that today the street dog population is this high. I'm not sure if you know how. Do you know what the fine is for India? It's 50 rupees.
What?
Nana ji used to tell us that India में कुत्ता मर जाए या इंसान मर जाए वो एक ही है. This is not just a street dog problem. Today it is street dogs. Tomorrow they'll come for your own dogs and then they will come for you. We recently did a breeder raid. Her ears were being eaten by maggots and she had milk still in her teeth. So he used her till that point and then got rid of her. These are people who otherwise preach like being holy, oh we should be kind people, we should be nice people, but they will not think twice about what they're doing to their own dogs. Worship without responsibility is just hypocrisy. That's what it is.
Hi guys, I'm Mishita
And I'm Kanishka.
and welcome to
Drop the Filter. Happy New Year. It's been a while and we've come back, I think, better.
And stronger as well.
And we're so excited to get back to all of this. And today with us we have...
Ashleen Kaur, she works in animal welfare and she also runs a rescue operation called as For Paws Sake. So do you want to introduce yourself now?
Hi, I'm Ashleen Kaur. Thank you so much for having me here, especially because I'm going to be able to address an issue that's been really close to my heart ever since I was born, I loved animals. I was born into a house full of animals, but I think my journey with rescue really kicked off only 13 years ago when I shifted to India and I saw the plight of animals in the country. And it all basically started with, I was really young, I was in school and I was going to school and I don't know why I took an auto that particular day to my bus stop. And in front of me, the other auto driver ran over a dog completely. So the dog went fully under the auto, turned upside down, and the auto didn't even stop. He just drove off. And that was my first ever rescue. So I asked my auto driver to stop. And then my journey actually began is when I reached the hospital and I happened to meet another rescuer who's still a very dear friend. And I found out that there is a very small community of people 13 years ago that was doing this. And yeah, today the community has definitely grown and there's a lot more awareness on animal welfare. But yeah, so I've been doing this for 13 years and I love it, even though sometimes it's hard.
Really nice.
That's-
Like 13 years investing into something that too is for other, like for the dogs. It's a big thing.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Also with that, this was your first interaction of being like with the animal rescue thing. But when did you feel it was not just about helping animals and it was more of like a systematic problem in our country?
To be very honest, initially when I started, like you said, I did think this was more a people problem. Like, that India doesn't have people who care. Yeah. But I figured out that people actually really do care about them. It's the system that doesn't. And so India does not have a street dog problem. It has a accountability and apathy problem. And the government really plays a huge role. And I eventually figured that there were such small things that actually the government could have done that would have helped with so many problems, but they've just not taken accountability. And whether that's something like just feeding them or making safe feeding spots for them, or even something as big as sterilization. And not too many people know this, but the government is funded for their sterilization. So they get money for it. And I think people need to understand, not just people who like dogs, but even people who hate dogs, that your tax money is what's going to them to sterilize the dogs, but it's not happening. So where's the money going? It's going in their pocket. Right? So people think like, why should we have street dogs on the road? Hum to paise de rahe hai, but your money is feeding those government officials. They are not doing anything with that money. And even if they do sterilize the dogs, the conditions are horrible. Yeah, we recently went to one of the government centers where dogs are sterilized mass sterilization is done. And it was actually so sad. Like there's, there's stitches that are used. Some of them are just not even healed and they release them back. They don't properly separate viral dogs from healthy dogs. So if a dog has a viral, it's going to easily transfer onto the other dogs. And yeah, so I really think India needs to understand that there is a lot that they can do, but the government just fails and chooses not to do this.
I think, I mean, all of that you're saying sounds so much. And when you started your, community, did it feel like it's going to be very difficult as a single person doing this? And when did you get to a stage where you're like, okay, fine, it's time to get in more people? Because it sounds like so much, because you're literally fighting with the world at this point.
So I did go in alone, but then I figured out there is actually a community that does exist. And I'm very grateful that I was able to find my community pretty fast. But like that was 13 years ago. If I look at it today, the community is actually really, really big. And people like the Supreme Court judges laughed and said that we're a minority. We're not a minority. We actually are quite a handful of people. I'm sure you saw the protests that took place, and so many people showed up.
Yeah.
Right? So it is not something you can do single-handedly. You get really exhausted. Funds are super low. The government is not funding us for this. And so it does get hard when you're alone. But the good thing is that there is a huge community now. There are WhatsApp groups created for each area. So Indranagar has a squad. Devanhalli has a squad. There are so we report on that saying, hey, this dog is hurt or this cat is hurt. And someone kind of recognizes the dog or the cat. So yeah, I mean, it's now really growing. I think I'm not sure. I would like to say the newer generation is much kinder.
Yeah.
Or at least they have more awareness now.
Yeah.
I have people messaging me on Instagram saying we want to do what you do, but we need help. So at least now they're able to reach out to people and get help. I think in the past there was not much awareness. You didn't know where to go. So yeah, it's definitely changing. But like I said, if the problem doesn't get solved from the top, which is the government, and they don't hold themselves accountable, everything else just becomes a big mess.
Correct.
Also, when you said about less funds, how do you deal with that? Like, who are the people you get funds from, and how do you imagine like there's a dog on the you found on the street and he's he's sick or something and you have to treat him. So how do you deal with those situations and do you get emotional because obviously you're around so many animals and it actually gets overwhelmed for you as well. So how do you deal with all of that?
So for the funds part of it, this is, people think that the government funds this. We are zero rupees coming from the government. A lot of us are able to raise funds through social media. That I think I would actually credit the entire thing to social media. Whether it's Instagram page, Facebook page, we post about this particular dog, we need this much funds. Hospitals, so a lot of us use private hospitals only because the government hospitals have horrible medical care. So private hospital doctors have been really sweet. They give us like a really big discount. But yeah, primarily we are funded through people on Instagram who see our work and they've been following us for years. They know that we're, a legit group that is giving back to the community. And so, yeah, we get funded through that. CSR funding in India for animals is currently really low, but it does happen. There are some companies that have shelled out quite a good amount of money through CSR funding. But not all of them are like, how do I say, they're not continuous. Sometimes they'll give you one lump sum and that's about it. But yeah, I'm still really grateful for that because it has cleared a lot of our pending bills. How do I deal with it emotionally? When I started, there were days when I would be sobbing in my bed. Like I'd go back home and I'd be crying about it and I would call my sister. I still do. I'm 28 and I still cry so much. In fact, one of my recent reels that went viral, I'm crying in it because the police barricaded the airport flyover to let a VIP convo pass and there was a dog dying in my car.
Yeah.
And she did die. And I begged them. I said, she's going to die. She's going to die. She's not able to breathe. I need to get to the hospital. And he's like, yeah, but she's not a human. So you please wait. And so that they stopped us for, I would say, there for about 20 minutes. Then they diverted us onto a service road that basically didn't move. And yeah, she did pass away. And I sobbed a lot about that. But yeah, so does it ever get easy? No. 13 years ago, I would cry about a dog. 13 years later, I still cry about a dog or a cat that we're not able to save. I think it's just that with every case, we learn that we're doing the best we can. All of us are doing whatever we can in our limits to help these animals. And if we start sitting and crying over one dog, we might not be able to help 10 more. Like if I just shut myself off, I may be able to save 10 more, but if I sit at home and keep crying, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So what I do, I think the different way that I cry now is I voice out on social media. I'm
love
not
that.
scared to go against the government.
Yeah.
I'm openly saying it's the government that is at fault, calling breeders out, calling people. I've done like a whole influencers who don't influence series where I'm talking about, say, or any influencer that has bought from a breeder and then posted online about it without realizing that you are influencing so many more people to do this. And these are people who otherwise think and preach so well online about being kind, being sweet, but then they don't realize that they're directly funding abuse. So yeah, I've just learned to maybe channelize my emotions more towards speaking up for them than sitting and crying about it.
I think that's one of the best parts about it. I feel like that's one thing that social media really, really encourages.
Yeah.
Because you always find people at the same level as you. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like
I've
thought-wise,
definitely found,
emotion-wise.
yeah, like my community is so much
Yeah.
more through
And
social media.
I recently saw a post which said, you know, you won't realize there are people supporting you from like random parts of the world, random parts of the country.
I do have people from like Canada, some girl from Africa just saying, oh my God, thank you for what you do. We've heard India is so bad to dogs, but we're able to see it. And I'm like, okay,
Oh my God.
we're getting somewhere. I have like little 15-year-old girls messaging me saying, oh my God, thank you. Maybe we'll start with one dog. So yeah, the social media has really helped us, whether it's through funding or just finding our people.
Correct. I think when you hear people saying that, you know, India has a problem or an overly numbered, you know, stray dogs, what goes into your mind at that point? And why do you think that's the case in India specifically?
Yeah.
So I think people need to firstly understand that feeding does not equal increasing the population, right? So people are like, आप गली के कुत्ते को खाना दे रहे हो, इसलिए population बढ़ा है. And in my head, I'm like, that's not even science. Like, have you learned a little bit of science? No? Okay, let's explain it, right? Like, no, not you. And I actually would like to give the benefit of doubt to people who are actually not very educated, you know, still like figuring their own lives out, living out on the streets. But this comes from very educated, very wealthy, very well-to-do people who are like, because you're giving him food, the population is increasing. And I'm like, no, if you eat food, you're not going to get pregnant, right?
Yeah.
You're just going to live and be happy. And so the problem that people need to understand is that the actual problem is sterilization. And science has advanced so much. We have doctors doing sterilization cuts like this small to remove the entire organ. And it's not a very expensive surgery. So it's not like the government cannot afford this. They have initially had set out these government hospitals to get all of this done. But the problem with India is we love saying today we've released this law and then just put it on paper, but there's zero implementation. Nothing happens, right? And when you don't implement the law, then you're openly giving people the power to abuse the law.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, people need to understand feeders are not the problem. We're actually a huge asset to this country. And I think, you know, every time I hear the Supreme Court judges speak, I feel like just asking them कि आपका degree है भी कि नहीं? Like आप कैसे पहुंचे उस सीट पे? Because how can you not use your assets, which are rescuers, feeders like us? If we feed a hungry dog, he will eventually calm down. He's not going to need to venture out and look for food. He's going to know that I'm safe, I'm well fed here. He will not want to go randomly bite someone out of hunger or out of frustration to look for food, right? So that's one thing I think people really need to realize, and two is sterilization. It is so easily available. Every hospital performs this surgery. It's as simple as taking the dog, getting a blood test done, fasting the dog for 12 hours, and then go ahead with the surgery. Keep them for 3-4 days, do proper post-op care, and release them back. So it's people like us who eventually gain the trust of these dogs. These dogs will easily come into my hand. I'll take them to the hospital, get the surgery done. But people just love holding others accountable other than themselves or the system of like failure of the system, right? And that's essentially what it is. And India really needs to understand if they actually started this years ago. Like if you ask your parents, did they see these many street dogs? They're going to say no.
No.
It was not this much. It's because our government has really failed to do what they were paid to do that today the street dog population is this high. And a lot of people are like, तुम अमीर लोगों को सिर्फ पसंद है these street dogs. If you actually go see who looks after these dogs, they are people like your security guards.
Yeah.
I've seen Zomato delivery, Swiggy delivery boys, you know, they have Parle-G in their bag and they stop and feed them. So they keep like I've had people tell me like, oh, you think you're just very rich living in one gated society, so that's why you're able to do this. Every dog I feed has a caretaker, which is a security bhaiya or a chai tapri wala or the ironing guy across the street. They all have.
Yeah, when I saw a video on the internet where there was a guy on the street and he was cutting his birthday cake with his dog,
Yeah.
a street dog,
Dog.
that he has been with for so many years. And that's so emotional because I feel the system makes it look like that. And when you talk about the laws, so I want to understand this. Imagine there's a dog who has been harmed. So how does the law work around it? Imagine a person has hit a dog on the street. How does the law, or are there any laws for the dogs?
Can I just put it in one word? No. Like, are there laws on paper? Yes. But are those laws implemented? No. To break it down as easily as I can break it down, if you see abuse happening, of course, you do have to record it, put it on evidence. They want it. See, if it's something like a dog being chained up or abused every day on their terrace, they kind of ask you to do multiple days of timestamps and show that the abuse happens. You're kind of having to prove, even with just one video, you're kind of having to prove that this is an everyday affair. Or say, even if it's a street dog that just got hit by someone threw water on him, hot water on him or something like that. Essentially, someone who has the will to fight and knows their basic laws, you can walk into a police station and say, I have seen this abuse and under this section of Cruelty to Animals Act, you have to file a complaint. The problem, as always, like I say, in India, in this country, is one, the police is absolutely unaware of laws for animals. Half the time they're like, Bidi nahi, like for this street dog, you're coming and fighting. And some of them are absolutely unaware. Some of them are really sweet. If you aware them, educate them, get in touch with an animal welfare officer and ask them to speak to them, they're willing to file your complaint. But most of them, I would say 95% of them, do not care. They do not even want to learn. You practically have to sit and beg and say, Sirji, please, mera case le lo. I've seen the abuse. I have it on video. Can you help me? Most of them don't do it. But even if they do, you can fight to a great extent in our country. But the fine is something, I'm not sure if you know how. Do you know what the fine is for India? Street dogs? It's 50 rupees.
What?
To get away with animal cruelty, the fine is,
What
I think you
the
don't even get
hell?
coffee for 50 rupees. aajkal.
Yeah.
But what's the point of doing it also
Yeah.
then?
So when you put something as less as 50 rupees as your fine, you're openly saying it's not worth anything. Aapko jo karna hai, aap kar lo. Right? And so people are not scared. They're like, 50 rupees. I don't know if you've seen the video that's going viral of this guy who raped a 2-month-old puppy in JP Nagar and then smashed him against the wall till he died. And he's up.
What?
Yeah. He raped.
There are people who rape dogs.
Yeah, that my question
Yeah.
was that was my next question, because I've seen a couple videos, I think not this one, but like I usually, on Instagram it's very sweet how they put that thing that, this is sensitive, don't
and then you
watch
have to
it.
say, yes, I
Yeah,
want to watch
I
it.
can never watch it because my heart actually aches. Like I'll read about it in the caption. I don't think I have the heart to see things like that. It's too much for me. But my question was going to be, why do you think people do that? Like, what are people getting out of these things? I was absolutely confused when I saw
Yeah.
one of the first videos like that. I think there was a poster around, I think 4 5 years ago is when I saw it, and I was in shock.
Yeah.
There's a video
There was one that happened in Bombay
Yeah.
recently of a man in a toilet and the mob had to like
Yeah.
drag him out. But he walked off. Like there was no accountability. That puppy is in the hospital. The JP Nagar puppy died. He smashed her to the wall till she died. And the mother, if you watch the video, actually the mother of the puppy is wagging her tail and she's standing there. She doesn't know obviously she doesn't know what's happening to her puppy. And I don't know why people do it. And I think what's scary, I think it comes from a place of power, right? Like, oh, this
Yeah.
creature is not going to be able to do anything to me. So let me just use my power over him. But I think what people really need to understand, especially, I will always come back to the government, is people who can hurt an animal, and this is proven, are not scared to hurt a human.
Hmm.
Right? If you can kill or injure or abuse or rape a dog or a cat, this person is a psychopath in the making. He's a rapist in the making. Tomorrow, he is not going to think twice to do this to a human. So they say that children who abuse, they've actually done, like in America, they have followed men who've raped and abused, murdered women, like serial killers, and they've gone on to figure out that at their young age, they all started with animals.
Yeah, even
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah,
He started with
with the
animals first.
Yeah.
So, you know, something that initially used to trigger me when I first started doing this, my mom used to tell me, कि Nana ji used to tell us कि India में कुत्ता मर जाए या इंसान मर जाए वो एक ही है. And initially I used to get very angry. I'm like, how can you say that? But now it's actually true. Like, I'm not to deviate from animal welfare, but when it comes to our government, what I want people to understand is today it's about the dogs. Tomorrow it's going to be about the humans. The guy who fell and died in Delhi in that pit, are you telling me that there was no helicopter that would have come and picked him up? Otherwise, we've reached the moon. India has reached the moon. But they were not able to go pick up. So that's what I try to tell people, that this is not just a street dog problem. Today it is street dogs. Tomorrow they'll come for your own dogs and then they will come for you. And you know, people who like anti-dog people have texted me saying, oh, you should be happy that they are doing this so that the dogs will have a place to stay. And I always tell them one thing, जिस country ने अपने गरीब लोगों को खाना नहीं दिया, they've not made one shelter for them. You think they're going to make a shelter for street dogs? Like, you're trying to convince me that when a human has been dying on the road, they've not come to help you. But now they're going to come and help these four-legged creatures that they actually hate. You know, if you actually watch the Supreme Court hearing, it feels like they put a bunch of judges and they said, just whoever hates dogs the most, put your hand up. Those three men put their hand up and those three came and sat and they are fighting our case. And it's actually really sad. Like, when I watch that hearing, it really starts hitting me that this is not just a street dog problem. Tomorrow, if I'm a woman, I've been raped, and I have to come to court and speak to men like that who are so old, their thinking is even older, how can I ever think that they're going to protect me? Or now even the dogs, they're not going to do that.
So also, what is your take on the whole, the concept of rabies? Because I think I saw a video, a guy was bit by a dog and then he died of rabies. So how do you deal with that? Because I think if you go to, you know, speak about this, people will come, oh my god, they're gonna, hurt us and then we're gonna die. So
I think adding to that also, I mean, that's one thing that I am someone who's always been scared of dogs. I've become much better.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, I think my friends at this point, like, would give me an award.
Yeah, I do actually.
But the point is that's one thing I used to be scared of, you know, getting bitten, and at least like 5 6 years or 10 years down the lane, we had to get like 14 injections, and that's again
Yeah.
after dogs. That's one thing I'm scared of. So it wouldn't work for me. So, like, yeah, what's your take on it?
So I think people really need to know one thing, and I'm going to tell you this as well. Rabies is 100% preventable with the vaccination, right? I think the problem comes through lack of awareness. The government has done zero awareness programs to let, for example, जब COVID came, we all ran and went and got our Covishield. We were like, we have to get, because of the
Yeah.
amount of awareness. It had spread like crazy that please go vaccinate yourselves against this particular disease. There's no awareness on rabies. There's barely any awareness camps in these villages who are more prone to being bitten by dogs. Also, because if you see dog bite videos, right, a lot of the media doesn't show you what happened before the dog bite. And if you watch, like, get access to these videos, it'll be, now we need to understand people of lower socioeconomic class cannot keep an eye on their children all the time. If they're doing construction for a house, they can't be following their 3-year-old child everywhere, which is sad. It's the state of our country. But when the child is walking on the road, say mama, papa are busy doing work, they'll pick up 2 stones and hit the dog, or they'll go randomly stamp on the dog. Today someone comes and slaps me, one slap, kya, do chante, I'll give them back. Right? Same with that poor little dog. If a child has come and hit them, they will turn around. I'm not saying that's
Absolutely.
all the cases. There have been some that very, very little. Like, I'm telling you, 13 years I've done this. I've not been bitten once. My own dog would have bitten me. But I've never, ever, ever been bitten by a street dog. And so, one, the approach is, I mean, it starts with how you approach the dog. Second, if you've been bitten, there is no awareness on this, but wash the wound for 10 to 15 minutes under running water and soap and go and get vaccinated. The doctors have access to these vaccinations. Okay, I don't know if you know about the rabies fake vaccination scam also that happened. And another country had to come and tell India that, hey, this batch was fake vaccinations. Now, how can you hold that poor animal accountable when your medical system has failed you this badly? Anyway, now that's a secondary topic. But if this had to come out in the court, the judges will absolutely be like, we don't want to talk about this. Because like I said, they do not want to hold themselves accountable. But yeah, so you can go get vaccinated. A doctor will chart it out for you. Now the vaccines are not 14, don't worry. And it's only in very, very bad, deep bites which have really reached like muscle level is when they inject you with immunoglobulin around the bite. But what I'm saying is it is 100% preventable. So why are, if rabies deaths are happening, and first of all, there is no full accountability of how many people have died of rabies. In fact, in the Supreme Court hearing, one of the judges, one of the lawyers against the street dogs said that his client died of rabies. And when the next lawyer came and said, do you have a brain tissue sample, which confirms that
Rabies.
this person died of rabies, the judges just went, as always, and tried to shut everyone off. You cannot confirm rabies death until the brain tissue sample comes positive. And there are, I think, in an entire year that was reported was 34 deaths. But the system has claimed that there are lakhs and lakhs of deaths from rabies. But that is not the truth. And second, there is no accountability of, did these all actually die of rabies? Or yes, the history is that they got bitten, at some point got sick for something else and eventually passed away. Right? We as animal lovers do not want people to die. I don't think people understand that we are not people haters. We are just trying to speak up for someone as powerless as the dogs. And there are vaccines for the dogs as well for rabies. So people need to ask the government, right? कि आप आके टीका क्यों नहीं लगवा रहे?
Sterilize them.
Sterilize them, vaccinate them. Why are you guys not doing that? If you go to Georgia, they have 3 tags on their dogs' ears and they're in different colors, red, green, yellow. And they all indicate aggressive, doesn't like other dogs, keep them away. So there are countries doing stuff like this. Why is our country not doing it? We have reached moon, we are the 4th largest economy, but we've not done anything about this.
Okay, so when people think of breeders, what picture do they have in their mind?
If you ask me, if you ask people in general, I think they have this very rosy picture, like our mother, father have had puppies and now they're selling off the puppies. But the reality behind that is actually so different. I have rescued, not just myself, so many of us from the animal welfare community. I think one of our biggest fights is going to be breeders, always. Again, this stems from the government not regulating the breeding rules. Again, it's only existing on paper, like, oh, you have to come and register yourself with us. Ghanta, nobody registers with the Animal Welfare Board. There are, I think, only a handful of registered breeders, and those breeders will be selling their dogs in lakhs because they've done genetic testing, they have kept the mother and father properly, they breed them only once a year. But if you see backyard breeders, illegal breeders, basically the breeders where everyone gets their dogs from in India. I know my friends who've bought from breeders. They have not paid these, though actual like an ethical breeder. I don't even believe in an ethical breeder because for me, as long as there is an animal dying on the street or on the shelter, you cannot justify why you are going on reproducing and adding to the population. But those breeders sell their dogs in a very high rate because they are like I said, genetic testing and
Genuine.
everything has been done. Now, if you look at the breeders that are like today, if you go Google on Ola, you have puppy up for sale, and then you just call him and he'll call you to one dingy area in one basket and he'll give you the dog for like 15, 20K. Those breeders are, I would, if you would like me to put it in 2 words, abusive monsters. That's it. Full stop. They impregnate the mothers on these thing called the rape stand. It's called the rape stand, where they basically tie up the dog in that position and then force the male dog to impregnate the female dog. They inject them with hormones to keep getting their periods so that they can come on heat and then be raped and then have children. Puppies as young as I have seen in my rescuing 13 years, I have seen dogs as young as 18 days to 25 days being sold. Actually, medically, like if everyone looks at it, they need to be with their mothers for about 60 to 90 days. And in that time this is actually where a lot of behavior problems stem from. Because if the mother is with them for 3 months, she teaches them something as small as bite inhibition. So when they bite the mother too much, have you seen how mother puppies go back and, I don't know if you've seen it on the road maybe, they go back and bite the child and it's not really biting, they grab them by the neck and put pressure on them to show them that you are not supposed to be biting me this hard. Which is when they learn that, okay, there's only an extent to which I can play bite. That's why there are so many behavioral problems also, because they are not with their mother long enough, number one. Number two, they're barely getting their mother's milk, which has all the essential nutrients that they need. But why do the breeders sell them so young? Because they don't want to invest in food. They don't want to invest in their medical care. If they're with them for longer, then people will ask them, right, is the dog vaccinated before I buy from you? They don't want to do that. So they sell them off young, कि आप ही vaccination करवा लो, आप ही इसका खाना पीना दे दो. That's for the puppies. And most of them end up with parvo. I know so many families who bought from a breeder and then the puppies have died out of parvo because parvo lives in the environment for years and years.
What's parvo? Sorry.
It's a viral disease where they basically start pooping blood, severe amounts of blood. They start puking and it spreads very quickly among unvaccinated dogs. And what happens is, until you disinfect and bleach the area, the virus does not die. So if he even has a litter 3 months later, that litter will still get parvo. And they sell these dogs off quickly so that the families that now have to deal with parvo, we don't have to deal with it, right? And what happens to the parents is actually so sad. They are confined into cages just the size of them moving maybe left or right. We recently did a breeder raid. The chow chow was in the size of maybe this much of a cage with another Shih Tzu. And that was their entire world. And they were fed once a day, curd rice, and the bowl was left unclean for weeks. So they would just put the curd rice back in that bowl and throw it back inside. Right? And dogs in such cramped areas are going to fight for space. They're going to be prone to infections. And I rescued, like I can go on about all the dogs that I've rescued, but I have rescued a husky that was slit open his throat until his jugular vein was seen, and they just dumped him out on the streets. I picked up a chow chow that had maggots eating her entire eye. I have the video on my page. Her entire eye was being eaten by maggots when I found her. Her vagina was full of blood and maggots that were eating her alive. We picked up a retriever recently from a railway track. He dumped her on the railway track and she didn't have any energy to get up. And she was completely, her anus was being eaten by maggots. Her ears were being eaten by maggots and she had milk still in her teeth. So he used her till that point and then got rid of her. And I'm just telling you, like a handful of stories. not stories actually, reality of what happens. They don't vaccinate the mothers. They take the mothers to like very local vets who encourage this, like government hospitals really encourage breeding, but there are no rules and regulations. Ideally, you cannot be breeding a dog like so many times a year. Her body is this much, and usme se you're just treating her like a machine. And even the fathers, people do not talk about the males too much, but they are also discarded eventually. They tie them up in the middle of the night in some railway track or some street light, and then in the morning they're hoping that people like us come find us. There was one time uh, a breeder called us and he gave us, like, it was like a game. He said, I'm giving you 1 hour, you come pick up my dog, otherwise I'm throwing her out. And like in that 1 hour we had to
It's
figure
like a
out.
ransom call.
Yeah, it's like a ransom call, right? We've had people call, not, this didn't happen to me, this happened to a very dear friend who runs another NGO. A family called her and said, we're on nice road highway, our boxer has cancer, we're going to throw her here, otherwise come pick her up. And that's the kind of stuff that,
But why wouldn't they directly
Yeah.
give them to the NGO? Why the game?
I don't know. I think it just makes it, I don't know. I actually don't even understand why people don't choose to, if your dog is that sick and dying and you can humanely euthanize them at a clinic, but it just gives them less guilt to just call and say, like, how about we, told someone to come pick up the dog. And it's not like NGOs like mine are not accepting. If tomorrow I get a call and I say such a thing, I'll say, sir, no questions asked, just come drop your dog off. But I don't know, it just doesn't happen. We've done breeder raids where the police is with us. In fact, we took the government doctors with us, veterinary doctors. You're supposed to take them along when you do these raids, and they have to sign off these papers saying, yeah, you can confiscate the dog. He ended up doing some setting with the breeder, and he came out and said, no, madam, we'll give them 3 weeks time. We'll see if they improve the conditions. I said, wow, very convenient. So now you're just going to get some kickbacks of these puppies. And it was just such a fail. Like, I've gone daily, every day fighting for that dog. And then one government doctor comes in and says, okay, it's fine. And he signed off the paper. That's the problem. Everything just exists on paper. It's not implemented. But yeah, people need to stop buying. In India, I've noticed, like, I have cousins in Delhi who buy, and I've cut them off. I'm very happy to just cut people off my life if you buy a dog, especially if you're aware. If you're absolutely unaware, I do understand. My first dog, Casper, was bought 500 rupees many years ago. He lived till he was 19 years old, but I bought him, and I did not, my grandma bought him for us. But I did not know at that point. And I do meet people who are like, oh my God, we actually were absolutely unaware. I just don't understand how people with being on social media are unaware. You cannot tell me you're unaware if you're having access to so much information on the internet. But there are some people who genuinely don't know it's that bad and are open to being, educated, and then they don't do it again. But like I said, so I do have family that still encourages buying. And I've come to realize that in India, it's like a social status.
Correct.
Yeah,
right?
to have
Like,
a dog.
hey, I have a chow chow, I have a
Yeah,
toy
to-
poodle, you also have an indie, or you also just have a regular. Labradors are the new indies. They're on the road everywhere you go. There'll be one, hey, ma'am, we found a Labrador, and it'll be running out on the road. But that's what people like. It's just so sad. It's disgusting. It's sad. These are people who otherwise preach like being holy. Oh, we should be kind people. We should be nice people. But they will not think twice about what they're doing to their own dogs. Like, they're buying from abuse. And the reason breeding in India works this well is because nobody wants to ask the breeder, show me the mother, show me the father. The day they ask to show the parents, everybody will back out from buying. It's bad. It's really bad.
That's
Crazy.
man. Yeah.
I can't.
I
speak.
think I want to ask another question, which is probably not related to breeding. It's more about dogs. Now, there are a lot of dogs also, like we said, they are very much like humans, right? Except for the fact that they don't really communicate by words. Uh, Dogs also deal with anxiety, depression, and all of that. How do you deal with that? And how do you help a dog out of it? Whether it is a street dog or your pet dog, how do you help that dog out?
So I can mainly speak for dogs, say, that are slightly anxious or scared of people initially. Like some dogs, the hard truth is that they may just never really come out of it, especially those who have severe trauma. Like a lot of street dogs I know, I've been feeding them for over 8 years, but they still don't let me touch them. I'm just luckily so glad I was able to sterilize them. My work at least feels like halfway done. But that's just a trauma that they really, really haven't it, like in their skin, like in their very deep in their bones, and they cannot do anything about it. But for me, it's like when it comes to community animals, is as long as they're not hurting other people or other dogs and they're okay. Some of them are okay in their shell. They come out, they eat, and then they like to just live in their little bubble. And I think people need to understand that that's okay. Not every dog, unless it's hurting you, has to be your conventional style of a happy dog. Oh my God. Like some people tell me like, hey, that street dog just doesn't want to talk to anyone. I'm like, it's okay. He's not happy talking to other people and it's fine. He's eating, he's living his life, he's not disturbing you. So it's fine. When it comes to dogs, I would say more of pet dogs, the ones that we keep at home. Um, I, I I think it'll surprise you to quite an extent, but most of the dogs that we rescue from breeders or abusive homes or just have had to be given away when they were older for XYZ reason, they actually do pretty fine. They not all of them carry trauma. They are upset initially. Like for the first 2 months, some of them just like to live in their shell. If you get them home, they'll want to just choose one corner of the house and be. But it's so beautiful how they learn to forgive, how they learn to forget. And eventually when they come out of that shell, it is like a whole different dog. You're like, what? We recently rescued a dog called Perry. And for the first 1.5 months, she did not want to be with people. She did not want to look at other dogs. She just wanted to be. And we took her out of an abusive home. And if you look at her now, you could not tell it's the same dog. She's the first one to go play with other dogs. She's the first one to go meet children, loves people. She'll be waiting by the door for you to come back. And that is something that eventually comes with trust, gaining their trust, positive reinforcement. We don't force ourselves on those dogs. We tell them, you take two. So we call it decompression. We give them a few days to decompress, and then they eventually learn, like, oh, this person is not going to come hit me. Like some of them pee in the house and they'll be shaking because the previous owner would have beaten them for it, right? But then they eventually are like, oh, this person doesn't even yell at me. And then, slowly they realize that they like condition themselves into understanding that that was in the past. And I think personally, like whenever I've had a tough time in life, I've always looked back at my animals and I've figured if they can come out of something so bad, I need to learn from that. There are a handful of dogs, yes, that unfortunately may not ever feel okay with people. There's a beautiful NGO in Bangalore called Second Chance Sanctuary. They do deal with very aggressive dogs that were unfortunately have become aggressive because of human interaction, human abuse. They've been tied up for days on the terrace. Some of them have never seen sunlight. They've lived in, like, say a Rottweiler this big has lived again in a cage just the size of him. So those dogs sometimes just never recover from the trauma, but that doesn't make them bad dogs. They were just dealt with a very bad hand. But NGOs like these that are actually private, really good NGOs, they have like huge kennels individually for these dogs. And they make it clear that these dogs cannot be touched. But eventually they form a very nice bond with the caretakers at the NGO. So these dogs don't get adopted. They unfortunately do not find homes because as an NGO also, we are very sure to be clear with you that, hey, this dog is going to do good in your family, or no, this dog is not fit to get adopted. So those dogs eventually live their lives out in these very nice big kennels if rescued well. Yeah, so I think they just, it's beautiful, once you work with them, you really see how they, sometimes it's always like, who rescued who. Like every case I do, I'm just learning so much from each animal. So yeah.
You were talking about adoption with the dogs. How do you feel the problems that you face while adoption? And have you ever done like a successful adoption story?
I can I know I keep coming back to India, but it's just that I can speak more because that's for this particular. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but you hate India. I don't. It's just that it's easier to refer it because we live here. I've noticed it is definitely changing from 13 years back to where I am today. The concept of adoption has drastically changed in a good way. People are very, very open now to adopting. I think, again, because of social media awareness, now there's a lot of campaigns on the whole adopt, don't shop. I just feel like abroad, we, like in the US and all of that, there are still people who buy. Again, but over there, it's more regulated. And the other thing in the US is so in India, we don't have any kill shelters where the dogs, at least none that are happening openly. So in the US, like if there is a dog up for adoption, they have like a time frame. So they say, they write on it 30 days till adoption, otherwise they're euthanized. So even if they're as young as
Euthanized means?
like put to sleep forever, they'll inject them and
Dead.
they'll be dead.
But that's not a good thing, right?
It's a very controversial topic, but that's how they've been able to bring their entire like population to what it is. Like for example, there's two types of shelters in the US. You have the kill shelters and not non-kill shelters. In kill shelters, it is openly said that, so for example, I surrender my dog, they will say, they'll write on their cage saying, so today is 24th Jan. So what they'll write is, they'll write 24th Feb, last adoption date. And if the dog doesn't find a home till 24th Feb, they are taken out, and the doctors have, which is why suicide rates for vets are so high in the US, because no doctor or no one of compassion really wants to kill. Imagine a dog eating, sleeping, wagging its tail in front of you, and then you have to just give it an injection and it dies.
Please stop it. I'm glad that's not in India.
India. But so in India, I just feel like people are very skeptical, but like I said, it has really, really, really changed over the years that I started. For a handful of people, like I did say earlier, dogs are more like a showpiece, like an aesthetic, show in society. So they think that if they come to adoption centers or to shelters, they're going to get broken or damaged dogs. And they're like, so I've had people openly tell me like, ma'am, good breed you have. And I'm like, what's your definition of good breed? You first tell me that. If I'm an Indian and you're an Indian, am I going to come and say which good Indian can I look at? Like am I going to be looking at your skin tone, or am I looking at how good your hair is? No, right? So I just don't know why in India they think it's like a makeyourdog.com. I've gotten people sending me a list. Ma'am, blue eyes, long hair.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, aap ek kaam karo, you go to a toy store and you buy a toy and cup, because I don't have this kind of a dog. So yeah, I just feel like in India, in some places, because they look at dogs as more like a status symbol, they think if they reach out to NGOs or shelters, we're going to give them some broken, damaged dog. But that's not the reality. Our dogs are worthy of homes. We actually really look into their health. We do entire blood work checkups. We make sure they're vaccinated. Like your dog comes to you with fully knowing what their history is, fully knowing what their current medical status is. So we'll tell you they're spayed, they're vaccinated, hand over all their details. And we actually have such amazing dogs that are looking for a home. Nowadays, people are more open to it. That initially, I think they were scared that will we give them a dog that might be angry, or we're not going to be fully honest. But it's drastically changed. Things are getting better. I think also abroad, there's more accessibility. Like there are so many shelters for people to trust and get a dog from, because it's regulated. People in India are a bit scared, like, am I adopting from the right NGO? Am I, doing everything legally correct? So I think that's the only hiccup that really comes in.
Honestly, I mean, sorry to cut you, but but aren't people right to have that sort of hiccup? Like, how do you know which NGO to trust?
I just have one, like, to say to that, how do you know which breeder to trust? How do you know that the breeder you're getting a dog from, like I said, so many families.
No, in general, I'm not saying, okay, like now that you added
in
that.
general, yeah.
So, how do you know who do you trust? Where do you, because see, I don't know if there are people who can probably say pick up a dog from the street and decide to, uh, adopted. And but for example, if someone's going out of their way and trying to, adopt a dog from, say, either an NGO or a breeder, how do you know the right things?
So when it comes to NGOs, they should ideally be registered. So you
Okay.
register yourself as an NGO. Whether you have a working shelter or you don't, you can still be an NGO. So, for example, I initially wanted to start under For Paws Sake, but then I met a very dear friend called Sakshi who started Big Bagheera, and we were able to start our NGO under the name of Big Bagheera as a registered trust. So people have the right to question and ask, are you a registered trust? Are you a registered NGO? And if you are, then these are the correct NGOs to adopt from, because most of these registered places are also working under CSR. So there's a lot of like vigilance that's taken care of. Like people are coming and checking, not the government, they don't care, but like say a company wants to CSR fund me, they want to come and see that I have a working setup space, right? So that's one thing. The other thing when you're adopting a dog is making sure that you are being handed over paperwork, you're being handed over all their documents. So you're getting their vaccines if they've been vaccinated. But if it's a very small puppy, then we openly tell you, hey, vaccinations have not happened. But we'll follow you through it. Then they will hand over the adoption papers to you. They will hand over the vaccination books, the history of the dog, if the dog was admitted. We also have a lot of people working out of foster homes. So a foster home is where you basically say, I cannot adopt a dog, but I'm willing to help you house the dog till you find a home, right? So mainly I would say make sure the NGO you're adopting from is a registered trust, or at least if not registered, but say like you found a dog and someone wants to adopt from you, at least you're being open and telling them this is what you need to keep in mind, or get in touch with an adoption facilitator who will help you understand how to do the entire thing.
Got it.
Yeah, but I think just the entire, I think India is still not very open. I mean, like I said, only because of social media awareness now, we are able to educate people on how bad the breeding industry is. Like today, it's so accessible on the internet to just type like horrors of breeding, or even if you just type on Instagram, you will find so many videos of how it works. I just think some people choose to be blind to it. Like they just choose to buy knowing the cruelty, but they just want like a very beautiful looking dog. But I don't think they understand that you are basically directly and fully funding abuse.
What's one thing you would want people to stop saying and start doing?
In general, as humans, we love either taking no accountability or just putting it onto someone else, right? So a lot of people, and if I can speak for India, it's not just when it comes to animals, when it comes to anything. We want to be like, oh, this is so wrong, but then don't want to do anything about it, right? You even see the most educated of educated people contributing to garbage, or just doing like anything that kind of puts that whole question mark as to are we really doing our duty. I think people need to, at least when it comes to animal welfare, really, really understand if a dog could choose, he would not want to be born on the streets. It is not their fault that they're on the streets. Nobody wants to be born poor. Nobody wants to be born homeless. We need to stop holding them accountable and start holding us as humans, the most intelligent species. We're the ones with a brain, a mouth, a language, hands, legs, that we can do something. They cannot, right? It's not their fault that they can't go cook food, right? You can. And so I just want people to understand that when you have so many resources, make use of it. Stop putting the blame on, oh, it's the animal lovers that are causing this problem. Do I go to a person that gives poor people blankets and say, aapke wajah se inka population increase ho raha hai? No, right? I am letting you support your cause and you let us support ours. I've had so many people message me saying, yeah, but you guys don't come stand up when it's for humans. Did I stop you when you went to stand up for humans? I didn't come and stop you. So let us do our work. You do your work, but let's learn to respect that your voice for a particular social cause is different, but ours is different, but that doesn't make us enemies. That in fact, we should actually figure out how we can work together. A lot of like, I don't want to put it off rudely, but a lot of people who live in slums and like lower socioeconomical classes, they really love these dogs. They really do take care of them, but they just don't know that. I mean, they're not going to, they themselves don't know about Nasbandi for themselves, where they'll go do it for dogs, right? But that's again due to lack of awareness. But if like NGOs that work for people in these places also put hands together with people for animals, we can really start doing a lot of work. People need to stop. And I don't know why humans think the minute something is, like you said, you know, mm, like an animal, suddenly they're powerful and that animal is powerless. Like, why is your first instinct to kill them, to get rid of them? Would you do that to your own children? You wouldn't. If your child has 10 other children, you're not going to be like, oh, let's just kill this child, because that's not their fault, right? It's like you're asking a 2-year-old to be a 30-year-old. That's like what you're doing to dogs. You're asking them to just suddenly learn how to be so smart and behave. They cannot do that. They, like, why are we not questioning things that, how can a country be like, if you actually hear the hearing, right, you will be shocked that a country can spend this much time on a street dog issue rather than saying, hey, you are a government and like a government body, you need to start doing this. Imagine if we put that much thought into rape. Nirbhaya would have got justice pata nahi kitne saal pehle, right? And just like that, there are so many problems in India, but I cannot believe that the biggest problem in our society today is street dogs. Like, I really, it does not clock to my head about how something as simple as vaccination and sterilization is being discussed so much, and not something as strong as, should we implement stronger rules for humans? When people look at us from different countries, right, they think that we're a country that really worships animals. We worship, or we preach kindness. But I think people need to understand that worship without responsibility is just hypocrisy. That's what it is, right? You cannot say that Pashupati. I will tell you, my neighbor, I think if he could, like, I think he thinks Shiva sits in his house. I love God. I very much, I am a believer. And he'll be like, Shiva this, Pashupati Nath this. And he's the first man to hate my street dogs. How? Like, that's what I'm saying. Our country is just, people love looking very powerful when it comes to like, ha, but main to puja paat karti hu. But they don't want to take even this much responsibility for a voiceless animal. If today Pandit ji comes and tells him that if you feed a black dog, you will be the best man on the planet, he will only go find that one black dog and he'll feed him. But he will just hate on every other living creature. And I don't understand how. Like, I really want to ask people, how do you preach to be a country that worships animals? That, I mean, I'm not vegan, I'm vegetarian. I wish I was vegan, but I myself ask myself this question, that we keep saying Gau Mata, Gau Mata. We are the second biggest beef exporters of the country, of the world, right? So I just think India loves looking amazing on paper, loves looking amazing on, oh, got this, got that. But we do not want to start with ourselves. Forget dogs, forget animals. Even as something as simple as keeping the street clean. As long as kachra mere ghar ke bahar nahi hai, I'm okay. But I'll go and throw it in my neighbor's house. And that's the same with these animals, right? These guys just want to put the blame on someone else without realizing that change does start with you. You can be that change. I'm not asking you to love dogs. I'm not asking you to, you have to go feed. I'm just saying, don't hurt them. People like us exist. We will come look after them. But just don't, like, why are you throwing hot oil on them? Why are you, those puppies were set on fire for just crying out in the cold. So people, instead of just giving them a blanket and all, just set them on fire. This was like 2 months ago. And they just killed them. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I just hope, like I said, with awareness and with, I would like to think it's our generation that can really fix all the mess that was made. I even say this about people in like of authority, like the government. I think that entire comb of people have to change for the world to really start healing. But until then, I just pray every day that we are slightly kinder to animals, not just dogs and cats, to just even, because in Telangana recently, like, I don't know if you saw the video, there was a bunch of monkeys that were relocated. And if you think of it, relocation is just abandonment with very good PR. Like, we relocated the thing. How can you relocate monkeys, yeah? That's their forest, it's their jungle. How can you just put all of them and chuck them somewhere and come? And the science is so bad. Like, you're disrupting science, you're disrupting nature, right? If an animal comes into an unknown territory, it's going to go crazy and start destroying the entire ecosystem.
I think a lot of awareness for us as well. I mean, of course, there's a lot of things we know surface level, but I think this was like a level deeper.
Yeah, I'm
and a
telling you,
lot
animal
more-
welfare, like when people think of it, it's like, you know, that iceberg photo? And then
Yeah.
there's like only this much, and then
Yeah.
it's so deep, and it is really like, it just makes me really sad, because I feel like everyone really wants to do something, but it's just very like, it's really tough.
Yeah.
But we're getting there. I'm sure.
Yes.
I think 10 years later, if we do another one, we'll be like, oh my God, how much has it changed?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there will be, like you said, I think our generation is a lot more mindful, a lot more kinder, a lot more, they intentional about what they do. Even if, for example, there are a lot of people who might not like animals, there are a lot of people who are scared of animals, there are a lot of people who love animals, and we can't blame them for what they choose. But I think the idea is their reciprocation towards animals is not going to be violence, it's not going to be something rude. It's just going to be either they exist for them or they don't, and we cannot blame them for that. That's completely their choice, I think. And I am not talking about myself. No, but what I'm trying to say is, as long as the generation is not abusing in terms of violence or any other sort of abuse, as long as they're not harming in any way, I think that's one step towards being better.
I think in short, just be kind.
Kind, right? So, because there are like actual rules and regulations for dogs who bite, right? So dogs who actually bite and there is proven bitten history, there is a whole protocol. Like, you get them picked up, and like, we understand that no one wants a biting dog around, but like, just think of it, right? Like, you've been around for so many years, no street dog has randomly just come and bitten you.
True.
Right? There's either been a trigger, or what I'm basically trying to say is that out of 100 dogs, for that one biting dog, why are we making 99 dogs pay the price? Now, if one man is a rapist,
I was
I'm
just
not
gonna
going,
say that it comes for humans or any
you-
other.
Yeah.
if you go by
Yeah.
that logic, then I have to pick up all the men of India and dump them in the middle of nowhere. Because for one man that raped, or even a murderer, you cannot hold the entire human. If like that we have to start, animals will probably think we're the worst. Right? They'll be like, इंसान इंसान को भी नहीं छोड़ता. At least कुत्ते इंसान को काट रहे, ये इंसान को मार रहा है.
I think on that note, we are coming.
Yeah, well,
an
I think
end.
towards the end of the episode. I think it was a great episode. We had a lot of fun.
Did you?
I did. I feel like I like just love saying anything that's like just speaking up for the truth and for what's right, actually, to be very honest. You know? If today the government comes and tells me we're giving you 10 acres of beautiful space, I'll be the first one to agree. But to keep, right. Also, that's what I'm saying. As long as it's right and it's ethical, I will always be the first one to agree to it. But yeah, I'm so glad I got the opportunity to do this. I know I've spoken for everyone in animal welfare, and it's a never-ending topic, I can promise
Clearly.
you that. Yeah, I feel like we could go on and on. But yeah, like I said, as long as there is more awareness, and with things like this, we will really be able to get the truth out and stand up for our little ones.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I
And
mean-
whoever's watching this, please adopt, don't shop. And please tell all your friends also.
Yeah, no,
For
for sure. I think
sure.
all our friends are pretty.
Actually,
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad.
Okay, but for now, we will see you next Friday.
And we're so happy to be back.
Yeah, we are. But bye,
love you all. Bye.
guys.
Bye.